Okay, so this is going to be a short tutorial about how we composite Jenny and Sleepy into the Sleepster. There are a number of scenes where the car is going to be flying through the air, and we need to make sure that Jenny and Sleepy are sitting in the car properly. So let's have a look firstly at what it looks like when Jenny sat in the car properly. So here we can see Jenny and Sleepy are sat in the car, and she's not sat outside of the car. So this is what it looks like when it looks done properly. Here's a better example here. So you can see here that the car is sitting behind Jenny and Sleepy. Now we're going to look at what the composite looks like if it's not been done properly. Okay, so here we have Jenny composited in the scene.
5,000 feet up in the air right now, Jenny. I'm glad you're enjoying the ride home.
She's not sitting in front of the chair properly.
I'm going to land a Sleepster in your back garden.
Here we see she's moving through the back of the car here, so this obviously doesn't look correct. So I'm gonna show you in After Effects how we composite Jenny into the Sleepster properly. So I've got two compositions here, one where Jenny's been added in incorrectly, as you've just seen, and then the correct composition with the correct compositing technique where we've added Jenny in and she's sitting in front of the car seat, as we can see here. So there are four main steps to this, which I'll just briefly mention now. So we're going to add in Jenny to the composition and key her out with the green screen. Then we're going to add the Sleepster in. We're going to track the motion of the Sleepster, and then we're going to create a null object, parent Jenny to the null object with the tracking, which has the tracking information on it. So then Jenny will move through the scene with the car. Then we're going to duplicate the Sleepster layer, and on the top layer we're going to mask out the section of the car which we want Jenny to sit in front of, and then we're going to need to animate that mask through the scene, and then we're going to animate Jenny through the scene as well so that she fits into the car properly. So we're going to go through all of those steps now, and I'm going to start from scratch. So I'll create a new composition, and this needs to be 1920 by 1080 and 23.976 frame rate's okay, and we'll call this start from scratch. So I'll create this. Okay, so first things first, we'll bring in Jenny into the scene. I'll just check that we've got this fit correctly. Yes, we do. So we'll just trim this up quickly, and then we'll go to Effects and Presets, and we'll look for Key Light. Key Light 1.2, we'll pop that on there. And then a few quick tips with regards to green screening, if anyone needs a few tips there, is I've been trying to go for the dark areas as opposed to the lighter areas of the green screen. So if there's a shadow coming off of Jenny because they've not lit the back screen properly, go for the dark area. And then we go to intermediate result, combined map. We've got a reasonably good key, but a few quick ones to just do is clip your blacks slightly, clip the whites, and then if you want to get really kind of more precise with it, you can go and play around with the softness and the screen and then any edge spill, but I've noticed on these ones that the edge spill is okay. So I'll just clip the blacks a little bit more, go back to final result, and then we'll need to just add in a quick garbage mask here around Jenny, like so. Cool. So then the next thing we'll need to do is pull in the Sleepster. So I'll go back to my project window. Okay, so now we're going to go and take the car render, which we have here, and then we're going to pull that into the scene. So I'll pull that in here. I'll just solo this for now, and then we need to track the motion of this car through the scene because we're then going to parent Jenny so that she fits in and follows the car. So to do that, we'll select our car layer, and then we'll come down to tracker and we'll say track camera. We'll need full resolution for this. Sorry, track motion, sorry. And then we're going to want to track the rotation and the scale as well. So now we're going to get these two tracker points, and then we want to find some high contrast track points. I've been using the number plate, each side of the number plate. It seems to have been working okay for me now. And then we can just hit forward, and then as we can see, this will start tracking through the scene. Now this can take a little bit of a while, so I'm just going to skip through this and we'll see what it looks like in the correct composite. Here you can see these blue lines. This is the full track when it's been rendered out properly. So we'll assume that we've done all that properly, and then what we'll do is we'll go to new, create null object, and then we'll edit the target of this track data. So we want to take this tracking data and we want to attach it to, we have null2 here, so we'll edit target, change that to null2, press OK, and then we hit apply, X and Y. Now we'll see this tracking data has been applied to null2, like so. So now what we can do is then parent Jenny to null2, so I'll take these off, and we will take the pick whip here and parent to null2. Now Jenny will be parented to these transform properties here, so she'll be moving through. Of course, at the moment we'll need to scale Jenny down, so she'll probably need to be about there. And as you can see, my mask is cutting off Jenny at certain points, so we need to go back and adjust the mask, or maybe even animate it as we go through. So I'll just go and pull that mask out slightly so we don't have any issues there. Okay, so now let's go back to the first frame, for example, and then we'll go and we'll hit the stopwatch and position for Jenny, move her across and down. So then we can see that scale is a little bit too much still, so we'll bring that down to about here. Again. So this is roughly the position that we want Jenny to be in, but as we can see, she's not sitting in front of the seat, she's sitting behind it. So now we're going to move on to step 3, which is how to duplicate that car layer and then mask it out so that Jenny sits behind it. So we take the Sleepster here, we can just solo this Sleepster layer for now. I'll zoom in a little bit. So we'll duplicate this layer. So the top layer is going to be our mask layer, and then what we're going to do is we'll make sure we got this layer selected, take the pen tool, and now we're going to mask around the seats like so. Now I'm just going to do this super roughly so that we get the idea of what we're doing, and I'll probably speed this section up so you can see what it looks like when it's finished. Cool. So now we have our mask, and then if we pull Jenny in between these two layers, and then we go back to our mask here and we invert said masks, now you can see here that Jenny is now sitting in front of the chairs, which is what we want. So that is the basic principle, the main principle that we want to get across in this video, is that you need to duplicate the car layer and then mask out the section that you want Jenny to be sitting in front of, and then Jenny sits within the two layers, and then it looks like she's now sat in the car properly once we adjust the scale and so on and so forth. Now if you were to just leave this like this and then try and animate Jenny through the scene, what we'd notice is that the mask does not animate with the car, it stays where it is. So we need to animate that mask to stay in that position with the seats. So to do that, we'll come down, we'll come back to our first frame, and then we'll come down to the mask and we'll hit mask path, and then we need to go forward, you know, however many frames it's going to be, and start moving that mask around. One tip for this that I found is to right click on the mask and say track mask, and then if you come here, much like it is with the tracking camera, if you hit forward here, After Effects will do its best effort to try and track that mask based on what you've done. It doesn't do a perfect job, but it will help slightly. So you can see, we can see here, if we zoom in, that it's created a bunch of track points. Now again, what I found is the best thing to do here is to basically delete all these points that it's made here. Delete this one and this one, and then we come to this new point. Let's get rid of Jenny as well. There we go, we can see what we're doing now. And then again, this is where it becomes a slightly slow process. We need to come in and adjust all of these key points, mask points around to that same area of the seats, so that then as we move through the scene, the mask stays where it should be and Jenny will sit in front of the car. So again, I won't go and do this for too long because it's going to be a relatively slow process, but you get the idea. Keep that same mask path position where you had it, mainly covering the seats or, you know, the back of the Sleepster. On certain animations of the car, you won't be able to see the headrest, so you'll need to just mask around the back of the car here, so that it looks like Jenny is sat in the car and not sitting behind the car, as we saw in the what not to do composite version. Okay, so yeah, quick tip: track the mask forward and then move it around as much as you can. And if you need to, try and kind of skip 10-15 frames ahead. So you're not doing every frame, because that would take forever. And then also another quick tip is just to add maybe a 4 or 5 pixel feather to that mask, just to make it blend in a little bit better. Okay, so now what we'll have, I'll just show you the mask as it is kind of been tracked through. You can see here, no, that's Jenny, sorry, top one here. You can see the mask path. I've kind of taken I don't know, 30 to 40 points and track that mask the whole way through the scene. So if I hit that mask, you can see here, if I zoom in, you know, each point in this scene, it's then tracking through onto the back of these seats as we go through. And then here, as I mentioned, we can't see the seats. We now need to track, cover the mask over the back of the car as it goes along. So now, as I've mentioned, we move Jenny between the two car layers. We've already covered that. So now the mask is tracked, we just need to animate Jenny in the scene. So if we come back to this start from scratch composition, we go to Jenny. Well, we've already got one keyframe on the position. If I enable Jenny again, we will just go along as the scene goes, and we will move Jenny along in the scene. But again, she would already be moving with the tracking data from the null object, so it should be a case of just adjusting her position ever so slightly as we go through the scene, up or down, left or sideways. Again, the scale here is will need to be changed, but again, that scale data will be on the tracking point. So as it stands now, we're just manually doing the tracking here, and as you can see, now we've lost the mask. Jenny will no longer sit in the car. So if we come back here to the one we did before, you can see Jenny has position points tracked throughout the scene to keep her in the same position in the car. And that's basically it. So just to recap, add Jenny into the scene, green screen, add in the Sleepster, track the motion. You want to make sure you're tracking scale, position and rotation. Create a null object, apply that tracking camera track data to the null object, parent Jenny to that null object so that she moves through the scene properly. Make sure Jenny sits in the middle of the two layers, and then mask out the seats, track the seats through the scene, and then animate Jenny's position throughout the scene so that she's in the correct position. And that's basically it. If there is anything that kind of doesn't make sense there, I'd suggest that, specific elements that don't make sense, I would suggest popping onto YouTube and trying to look up how to track a camera, or how to animate a mask, how to track a mask. You'll probably be able to find some useful resources there, but I think most of that is relatively straightforward, and the main thing is the process of duplicating the layers and making sure you invert the mask, adding Jenny to the middle of that layer. Cool. Thanks very much, guys.